Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. Today I have come up with a new topic about creating a beginner friendly to-do application using reactjs for the front end and Tailwind CSS for the CSS framework and Firebase for the backend. So before jumping into the demo, let us see what are the tools I'm using for this project. For the development server, I'm using Beat tool. You can also make use of create reactapp. I will leave the links in the description so you can check out the documentations. For the front end framework, like for the CSS part, I'm using Tailwind CSS. Like we can quickly make use of the utility classes so that we can rapidly develop the front end. Coming to the back end, like I'm making use of Firebase. So I will show you the implementation of CRUD functionalities in our reactjs using Firebase. So if you look at Firebase console from firebase.google.com, you can navigate to the console. Inside you can observe like I have created a project for the web application and we are making use of file store database. So under build section you can find many products that are available in our project. Like we will be making use of file store database. So in order to start with the project, make sure you have a Node.js installed on your system. Alright, so let's jump into the demo. So as you can see, I have a simple single page application. So I have a background, we have a input form. So here let's try to add a to do, and when we click on this button, you can see there is a to do item added. Let's jump back to the Firebase and verify in the database whether it is updated. Okay, so there is a collection that is created to do's, and inside it we have a document that contains a to do property. It is like a NoSQL database where collection contains a group of documents. So again, let us come back to the front end. So let's try to click on this edit icon, and here you can see our input form populated with the item which we want to edit. Let's update this as and when I click on this pencil icon again, and you can see it got updated, and let us verify in the database. So you can see it is quickly reflecting, right? So I will edit here just to make sure my front end is getting updated. So I'm again removing back. I did not click on update. So in our front end we have this full title, right? So now let's click on update. Okay, it got updated. So let's come back, and here you can see it got updated, right? So this is like listening to the snapshot, Firebase snapshot listeners, and it will automatically update our information. Okay, so let's try to delete this, and in the database, like you can see, we have a empty collection now. Alright, so let's jump into the coding part. In this section, we will focus on setting up the React project and development server using Beat tool, and then we can focus on integrating Tailwind CSS into our project, and then followed by designing the front end of our application. In the final section, we will focus on integrating Firebase backend and implementing CRUD functionalities. Okay, so go to vjs.dev, and here we can get started. Click on this, scroll a bit down. So here you can find like different commands. So based on whether you are using npm or yarn or pnpm, you can use these commands. So in my case, I'm going with npm. So let's copy this. So I have opened a command prompt in my projects directory. Here let's press enter. It is asking the project name, so I would like to name it Todo app. To select a framework, we will use React, and we will go with JavaScript, and that's it. So the project has been created. Let's change into the project directory. You can see like it has given the commands to run. So after changing the directory, you can install the node modules, so the dependencies, and then you can start running the application. So let's start running this command, npm install. Dependencies were installed. So let us open the VS Code using the command code. Let us quickly explore the project structure. So here you can see we have a Beat config file. Let us open the package.json. You can see we have only React dependencies, and everything falls under the dev dependencies. So let us look at the index.html. It has a script tag which is pointing to the main.jsx file inside a source folder. So let's expand this, and here you can see we have a main.jsx. Here we are calling the root component, and inside the source folder we have a assets folder to place our images, something like that, and we also have a public directory to place it. Apart from this, we do not see any test files, right? So that's the difference I see when using beat and create react app. Okay, so this node modules is like when we run npm install, so this was created. Let us go back to our terminal, and here let us run npm run dev. Now here you can see it has started running the application in port 5173. So this is how it is looking like. There is one thing I can say, like if you go to Vite in the config reference, if you click on it, here you can find some references like the server options. Let's say you want to host your front end on port number 3000. So you can see the default port is 5173, right? What you can do is in the config file, we can open a server object. So let us do that. So let's open this config file. Let's create the server object. And here you can provide a port at which you want to open this front end. Let us exit this, clear the screen and run the again. Okay, now you can see it has opened in port 3000. So let's click on it. So control plus click, it will open. So let us focus on integrating Tailwind CSS now. So you can go to tailwindcss.com, click on get started, choose framework guides and Vite. So we have already created our project, so we need to install Tailwind CSS, right? So let us copy this commands. So I have opened another tab. Here we need to navigate to our project directory. Let us paste that commands. So we are installing Tailwind CSS and post CSS and auto prefixer, which are dependencies. Next thing, we have to initialize Tailwind CSS. So for this we have to execute this command. Okay, so it has created Tailwind CSS config file and post CSS config file. We have to configure our template parts. So we have to open the Tailwind config file, and then we have to add this section. So let us copy this. So here you can see config.js file. So in the content section we can replace this. This is to apply Tailwind to this following extensions. Okay, so the next thing is add the Tailwind directives to our CSS. So let us copy this. So in our index.css file, so let us open this. So we have some default styles, right? Let us remove this. Okay, next thing is like so they are asking to start the project. So let us add this to verify whether Tailwind CSS is working. So it has applied font, bold, underline. So let us remove all these things and just place. So let's remove these things. We don't need this stuff. So let's check in the front end. So Tailwind CSS is not applied. So this is why it is happening is, so whenever you install some dependencies in your project, so just try to rerun your dev server. Okay, now you can see it is reloading, and here you can observe the font is in bold and underline. Okay, so I would like to add a Google font into our application. Let us go to fonts.google.com. Here you can search for your favorite font. Let us choose this Roboto. Select 300. Okay, and then 400, medium, bold and black. Here you can see we have selected the font, and here you can choose the option on embedding font into our application. So I would like to choose the second option, which is import statements. We can copy these things and let us go back to our application. So in the app.css file, so let us remove all the default styles. So let us import it, and here in the bottom you can see CSS rules to specify. So let us copy this. So to our entire application, so I would like to choose the body selector and just apply this, and you can see the font has applied. Okay, let us start developing the front end design. So we will start with root component. So here I would like to use both VS Code and screen at the same time. So let us make it mobile. So let us remove this. Let's have a div tag, and inside it let's place app. So we can make use of class name. So I'm going to apply Tailwind CSS classes which will apply to our application. So I'm focusing on mobile first responsiveness. So first thing first, let us apply the screen. So it will take the minimum height as the screen height, and then let us apply flex because I want to make this application to the center of the screen, and then followed by flex. So we can make item center and we can apply justify center. So let us save, and you can see it has centered. Okay, so let us open another div tag. So let's apply some more classes. So let's apply some background color here. So you can observe a slight background applied to this element width and height. Let's apply some padding. Let's make the corners rounded. Okay, let's apply some shadow as well. So we want width to be full, right? So you can see it occupied full width. Here in the about div tag, so we should apply some padding so that we can get some space around it. So now you can see we have some space. So if I expand this fully, so you can see it has occupied full width and it doesn't look nice, right? So we don't want this. So what we can do is we can apply max width to large screen size. So if I hover on it, you can see it has 32 rem max width. It has this much width and it is centered. From large screen and above, we would like to have width to have 25% out of whole. So now it has reduced even more because entire 100%. So if you divide into 25 each, so we get 25%, right? So it has taken 25% out of that. Okay, so let us add our heading to do app. Let's apply some classes. So we want to increase the text size. Okay, so let's make it bold, and it is not center, so we can add a property text center. So this will make center. So let us have a div tag below, and here I would like to have a input tag. So this is for our input text box. Okay, let's add a placeholder, add a to do. So let us do one thing here to the heading. Let's add some margin bottom. Okay, let's style this input text box. So let's add some padding. So top and bottom, let's add 2. So left and right, I'm going to add 4. Okay, so let's add a border and let's make the corners rounded. Okay, so now we want the width to be full. So when you click on it, you can see it is highlighting, right? So it is getting focused. So if you want, you can keep. So in my case, like I'm just going to apply one more property, focus, outline, none. So when you click on it, so you can see the focus is removed. Okay, so after the input text box, let's have a button, add a text add. So let's add some styles to it. So I would like to add a linear gradient color of blue. So busy gradient to the right. So from blue 400 to blue 600. Okay, so let us save this. Okay, so let's make the text white. So this is how like we can apply the text color. So let's add some padding to it. Padding to the left and right. And let's make the corners rounded. So you can observe one thing, like both these elements are stacking on top of each other. So we want each one to be side by side. So we can apply a class flex to it. You can apply some margin right. So let's make it 2. Okay, now it is looking nice. So let us add background image to it. So let's expand this. So you can go to pexels.com. So I have already selected one image for this. So you can go to pexels.com and you can choose a background image for your size. So you can select the size. I'm choosing the large one. Download it thanks to this person. So let us add this downloaded image into our assets folder. So inside assets folder I have added the image. So if I expand the assets, here you can see the image. Now let's try to add background image using Tailwind CSS, right? So since we are making use of it, let us see how to add a custom classes. So in the extended object, we can have a property called background image. So this takes a function. So let us try to return this with our custom property, CSS property. And here we need to provide the URL. So inside this URL, we can provide a path. So inside source, assets, let's give this image name. Since we are not using it, so lint is hinting us, so instead of this I will place underscore, or you can do one thing like let's disable linting. So we have to apply this custom CSS class to our project. So I'm going to apply here. Okay, so since we have applied this custom class to the background property, so we should add bg to it. Let's save it, and here you can see background image has been applied. So let us focus on displaying the list of to-dos. So let's have one more div tag. So one thing I have forgotten to add to this background image. So we can add some properties like background position center, and we can say background size cover. So let us focus on the div tag about listing of items. So let's apply some background color again. So you can observe, since we have applied flex, right? So these two things are become a children to this outer div tag which has flex applied. So default flex direction will be row. So that's why these two elements are displaying in the row format. So we want it in the column fashion. So let's add this property flex direction call. We can also add one more thing. Since we have applied flex to this div tag, we can apply a property called gap of 4. So this will apply spacing between these two flex items. Alright, so let's design this. So we can have a padding of 6. So let's have a rounded corners. We need a shadow. Okay, let's apply width to the full. Again, same rules apply for this as well. So similarly, how we have outer this item, so same way we will apply the rules to this listing of items as well. Okay, so let's have a UL tag for the listing, and inside let's apply li tag. So let's have a span tag. So I'm hard coding the to-dos, but I will update soon. So let's apply some style to this text. Let's increase the font size. So I'm going to have two buttons here, one for edit, another for remove. So edit to do and remove to do. So I will replace this text with icons soon. So for the moment we will have this text. So I'm going to add these styles. So I just used some styles like to apply some padding and background color, linear gradient color towards right side from gray 400 to gray 600. We want to apply text to be white color rounded, and then when you hover on it, so it will change its color. So let's add color for the below button as well. Okay, so now you can see when I hover on it, you can observe the difference, right? So this is because on the hover property, so like we applied a different colors. So on the li tag, let's apply some classes. So let's apply flex items center. We need some spacing between the text and buttons, right? So we want buttons towards right side and this one. So here we can apply justify between. There is one thing I have forgotten, so we should keep these two buttons in a single div tag. Now you can observe the difference. Okay, so let's add background white, padding of 3, rounded corners and shadow. Now you can see the difference. For example, if we have multiple LIs, now you can see there is no spacing between them, right? So what we can do is like we can margin bottom 3. Now you can see there will be a spacing between them. So let's focus on adding the icons. So I would like to use React icons library for this. So we can add npm install React icons. So I'm going to import some icons from React icons library. Here in place of add, let's add this FA plus. Here in the buttons, instead of edit, so we can have this so now you can see icons are displaying. Let's focus on the implementation of CRUD functionalities. We will start with adding a to-do using the input text box, and when we click on the add button. So for this I'm going to make use of hooks. So use state. So initially I'm going to have a empty array, which means so no items, and we are going to have a input use state, which can help us to store whatever we are entering here to our input text box. Like so I'm going to apply a value property. I'm attaching input use state, and I'm going to attach a handler, on change handler. So here whenever we type something, so it is going to trigger this function and it is going to update our input use state. So this is how whatever we enter in the text box, that data will get stored into this use state input variable. When we click on this add button, so it should add the to do to the array, right? So for that we are going to have a function. So let's apply some dynamic behavior. So on click, so we are going to call add to do. So let's use a try catch block for error handling, because in future we are going to add Firebase function calls, right, which will be asynchronous. So that's why I have made the function as async. So here I'm just going to log. So here you can showcase the error, but for now I'm just logging it. So let's try to make sure that we are trimming the value to not have any white spaces around it, and it should not be an empty string when we are adding a to do. So here it should be like set to dos. So we want to add a previous to dos, and to this a new to do, like so it should have a id, and let's make it a data object for this. And for the to do, so this is a property, and this value should be our input. Okay, and then finally we have to set input to the empty string back, because when we click on add button, it should add, and this form input text box should become empty again. So here let's try to loop over the objects. So we can make use of map function here. So using the to dos. So this is how, like generally in React, so you will iterate over array of objects and you will display the single item components. So you will have a to do, so we will also take the index of it. So let's return this li. Here you can observe, like so it is asking missing key prop for element. So for each child you should have a key prop. So let's add key and apply the index property here. Okay, so now let's change this text to, so the structure will be like each to do will have a id property and a to do property. We can access those two things. So we need a text, right? So to do dot to do property. So since we have no to dos in the array, so it is currently not able to display. Let's try to add one. So now you can see when I save, it immediately got reflected. So when we have no to dos, what we can do is so we can take this entire div. So let's open this. Let's verify the length of the to dos. So we want to display only when there are to dos. So if I remove this, let's comment this. Now you can see I'm no longer displaying the list items. Let's uncomment back. So let's verify the add to do functionality. So when we click on this button, we are making a call to add to do function. So this will add our a new to do object to this array, existing array. So len add. Now you can see it has added to the array, and you can also observe input text box become empty because we are resetting back. Okay, so let us focus on editing and deleting these things. So when we click on this pencil edit button, so here you can see I'm applying on click handler. So we have a function that will call set edit to index, like so we are going to take that particular item index and we are going to pass to this function. So for this we need to have one more use state variable, so to maintain the selected item for the editing purpose. So initially it will be set to negative index. So when we click on any item to edit, so this function is going to update this use state variable with some value. So here you can see this function set edit, so it is taking the index. Here what we are trying to do is, from the array of to-dos, so we are taking that particular to-do item and taking the to-do text and setting to the input, because when you click on it, it should add that to-do item in the text box automatically, right? So for that purpose we are setting the input variable, and then so we need this index as well, so we need to maintain it because later on when we're submitting, so it should update that particular to-do only. So for that purpose we are setting the edit index. Here we can do one thing, so when we are trying to edit it, when we click on this button, it should call different function, right, instead of add to do. So for this case, instead of calling add to do, so this time I'm making use of the edit index. If the index is not -1, that means we have selected an item to edit. If the index is -1, which means like we are adding the to do. So for that case we will call this function. So it will dynamically change the function call based on whether we are editing or adding to do. So in the same way, like we should also change the icon, right? So let's implement the same thing. So when we are trying to edit, we should change this plus icon to pencil icon because we are editing. Okay, here we need to implement the update to do function. So let's implement this update to do function. Again, we are going to have try catch block. So we will verify that we are not going to add a empty string. So here you can observe, like first of all, we are taking all the existing to-dos into a separate array. So this is called updated to-dos, and from the to-dos, so we are going to take that particular to-do and assign a new input to the to-do property. And finally we are setting to-dos, like we are updating the to-dos state variable with the latest updated ones. So let's verify this thing. So I'm clicking on this pencil icon now. Now you can observe input text box reflected with that to-do icon has been changed. So I'm just changing reactjs and click on pencil icon, and you can see it has updated the to-do. So there is one more thing, like we should set back input, right, once this is done. Okay, let's click on one more time. So finally, like when you click on the trash icon, it should delete the to-do. So for this, so to the button, I'm going to apply on-click handler. So this is going to call a remove to-do. This function accepts that particular to-do ID because we can filter out. So let's try to implement the function. So here you can observe, like we are taking ID. So here what I'm trying to do is I'm filtering all the to-dos and removing the particular matching one. So we are taking every to-do except the to-do which we want to delete. So let's remove this logger. So we are setting the update filtered to-dos. Okay, so now you can see, let me try to delete this. Okay, it's gone. Okay, after updating the to-do, we forgot to reset the index. So along with setting the input text box, like empty text box, like we should reset this index as well, because we are done with the updating, right? So this should no longer contain so let's refresh this. So let me try to delete this. Let's add a to-do. So let's add one more. Okay, so if I try to delete reactjs, so I'm trying to click on this trash icon, it's gone. If I try to edit, it's edited, and if I want to delete it, we can click on trash icon. Okay, so now we have completed the entire CRUD implementation, but till now we have been using the use state and the data is stored in the memory only, right? So we are not persisting the data. Like once we create a to do, it's not staying, because when we refresh it, it's gone. So let's implement Firebase to our front end. In the final section, let us focus on the Firebase backend service. We can go to console.firebase.google.com, and here you can start creating your project. Let's click on create project. So let's give it a name. Continue. We don't need any analytics. If you want, you can choose this. Create project. So let's continue. Here we have to add our application to get started. So since our application is web application, so you can choose this web. So we have to register with a name. So again, I'm providing the same name. I'm not going to choose the hosting service. So let's simply register the app. So if you want to host your application, and like you can check out my playlist videos where I have shown different ways on how to host your applications. So let's continue this. So we can go ahead and install this Firebase. So let's copy this command. So let's execute this npm install Firebase. Make sure you are installing in your project folder. So in the meantime, what we can do is we can copy this remaining code. So initialize Firebase and begin using the SDK. In the source folder, inside source, create a file called firebase.js file. And here you can paste your configuration. I recommend using the environment variables, like create a .env file. For the demo purpose, I'm just using it, but if you are going to push your project to GitHub and all, make sure you are not pushing this data directly. We are going to make use of file store. So you from the Firebase, so we can access the file store method, get file store. So below this, I'm going to create a variable called db, and to this method I'm just passing our app variable to this. So we are exporting this because we can make use of this variable in other modules. So let's save this. Here let's continue to the console. We have added our project and registered our application as well. Now we have to choose our product, right, which we are going to make use. So cloud, file store. So real-time updates, powerful queries and automatic scaling. So create database. You can choose the location. Here they are saying you cannot change it later. Make sure you are selecting nearer to your application region. Click on next. Make sure that if you are trying to test while in the development mode, it is fine. So up to 30 days you can allow read and write things. So if you are going to deploy, so after deployment, make sure that you are choosing the production mode. Start in test mode now. So it will allow anyone to view, edit and delete data for the next 30 days. Enable. So it is going to provision database inside our cloud Firebase backend. So this is fine. Let us go back to our code. So I'm going to remove this to do. So we have empty to dos now. So let us try to import this from React. We are trying to run this useState function on the empty array because we don't want any dependencies, and on page load, so we want to execute this function, right? So this is how like we will fetch our to-dos from backend on page load. So here you can see, so we need a database. So from Firebase, here you can see we have imported our Firebase database object. We need a couple of methods from Firebase, like you can see on snapshot method. So this is accepting a collection for one property, and in the second property, like it is providing a function on the dogs property. Like you can iterate array of dogs. On each dog, like you can build your object, and then finally this map method will return array of things. You can do modifications and map will return array at the end. That's where we are setting the to-dos back. You need to observe one difference here. ID is available on the dog directly, dog.id, but you cannot access the to-do property like dog.todo. So for that you are supposed to call the data method. In that you are supposed to call this to-do property. This is going to give us a listener. We are going to subscribe to it. Once we close this component or this page, so we should unsubscribe, right? Otherwise it is going to create a data leak for you. When we close the component, we should unsubscribe to it. That's why we are calling the unsubscribe function here. Okay, so let's import these methods. Let's try, yeah, from the file store. So we need a snapshot method as well. Okay, it got updated. Okay, let us save and see. We do not have any to-dos, right? So let us add some to-dos in the background. We created a collection called to-dos. Next, auto ID. Let's add a property to-do of value learn react. Save. Okay, so the to-do was added on the collection. So let us come back to our front end, and here you can see we got the response. Because of the listener, like, we are able to fetch the snapshot of the data and it is updating our to-dos instantly. Let's focus on adding to-do. So in the function add to-do, so here we are manipulating the to-dos using our JavaScript, right? So we don't need this because we are going to call one more method from Firebase, add document method. This method is going to take two properties. One is the collection, so where you want to add this new document. So we are specifying the DB reference as well as the collection's name, and to the method add document. So the second property should be your object, like the property name and the input value. So this input is nothing but whatever we enter in the input text box. So this is going to be asynchronous function call, so that's why we are awaiting, and once this is done we are resetting this set input back. Okay, so let's try to add a new one, learn Firebase. Click on add. Okay, so it was added. Let's verify in the backend. You can see there are two documents here, learn React, learn Firebase. So let us focus on updating to do. So we don't need this, no more JavaScript manipulations. So here you can see we are going to fetch the document first of all. So using our to-dos use state, when you click on edit, so you are going to have an index, right? You are going to take out the ID of that particular to-do which you want to edit. You are going to fetch the document from the Firebase, and that reference you are going to provide to this update document method. So the second parameter, again an object with the property and your latest input value. So let us import this from Firebase as well. Again, this is an asynchronous function, so we are awaiting for it to complete. So I'm going to select learn React, select this one. So let me update this as reactjs. Click on pencil icon. So this will trigger the update function call. Click on it. Okay, you can see it got updated. Even in the backend also we can verify. Learn reactjs. The final method is deleting the to-do. So we don't need to filter the data and set to-dos, because we just need to call a method, Firebase method, to delete, and whenever there is some change happens, we have a listener, right? So that will update our to-dos automatically. So here you can see our method is going to take an ID, right? So which to-do you want to delete. This ID we are going to pass to this doc method, providing the database reference, collections reference, and collection contains a document. So document ID, import this from Firebase. So we are passing the document which we want to delete. So again, this is asynchronous function. So we are catching if there are any errors using the try catch block. So I'm going to delete this learn Firebase. Click on it, it's gone. Learn reactjs, it's gone. Let me verify in the backend. Now my database collection has no documents. Finally, let's end this video by implementing some reusable components. So if you look at our code, we have many components we can create. For example, we can keep this entire thing inside a list component, and this each to-do item as a to-do item component. Inside the source folder, we can create a folder name called components. And inside it I would like to create list component, so todolist.jsx, and we can make use of React snippets extension. So RAFCE, it will create arrow functional component. Okay, so we don't need this import statement. We can also create one more for the to-do item, so I will name it to-do item.jsx. So let's use RAFCE. So here if you observe, for the list items, what we are doing is we can take out this entire div tag, and to this UL, so you can observe we are making use of to-dos variable, use state variable, which contains array of to-dos, and we are mapping and passing to this list li tag, right? So we can make this li as a to-do item and this entire div tag as list component. So let's take out this div tag from here and paste inside, and we can replace this div tag. So first of all, what is our dependency? So we need to-dos. So from app component to to-do list, we can import to-do list component here, and to this component we can pass the to-dos as a prop. So we have to accept this in prop, right? So we can destructure here and pass it like this. Okay, so next thing is we can take out this li tag and place this and replace inside this to-do item. So first thing, let's take out this key prop. So here we can call to the item component, and here we can provide the key prop. Okay, so if I hover on it, so it is saying prop validation, missing prop validation. So this is like TypeScript. For a variable, if you define it, so you can provide its type. So in the same way, even for the props also you can provide prop types, but for now, like, we can fix this by disabling this ESLint for this file. So if you observe in the to-do component, we need this to-do object, right? So from the list we can pass our actual to-do as a prop again. Okay, and here we have to accept this prop. So I'm destructuring and accepting our to-do prop. We need this icons. So from app, let's copy this import statement. Okay, here we don't need plus icon. Okay, let's also disable this ESLint. Finally, we need two methods. So again, we can pass this as a props only. So here we don't need this trash icon, so we can remove this. So let's take this function. So we can pass this as a prop. So I'm creating a property. So we are creating a prop called setEdit, and for that we are passing the value as this function. Similarly, we can pass this remove to do as a prop. So again, we can take this, because from list component we have to pass to do item component, because inside this item only we are making use of this functions. So just passing the prop is not enough, so we have to accept also. Here we can destructure it. And let's take this same thing and destructure in the item as well. Okay, so here we are missing the index. So from list component, so we have index here. Let's pass as a prop only again. Okay, so let's destructure it here. So a component takes inputs as a props and it returns the JSX as output. That's all about the video, guys. I hope you found this video helpful, and a big thank you for joining me today on this tutorial. Your support means a lot to me. If you enjoy this video, don't forget to show some love with a like and subscribe. Feel free to let me know your thoughts in the comment section. See you in the next video. Until then, bye.